All right, 41.2. I've got my shirt on tonight because it's uncharacteristically cold. It's in the 40s, which shouldn't be part of the deal of living in LA. We signed up for earthquakes and mudslides. We didn't sign up for temperatures within 20 degrees of freezing.
Real quick, Rick and Lance, in terms of CNN and the debate that they had with the kids, how do you feel about that?
I don't know. It gives me a certain amount of hope that the NRA doesn't have to be the boss of gun policy all the time. That the reasonable changes and attempts at changing gun policy can happen.
Just more evidence that you can brainwash our kids into being good little socialists. I gotta hand it to you guys. You can't change people that are adults, but you've got your minions working on our kids very effectively. Don't move your head.
All right. If kids are pissed off because they saw their classmates shot, I don't know if every one of these kids at that high school witnessed somebody getting their brains blown out, but if they went to that high school and they lost people they know, they should be allowed to.
They can be allowed all they want, but they're blaming the gun. They're not, what they should have said was, we need more people armed here to protect us.
They're allowed to have
I didn't want to have to run and hide in a closet. I think it would have been much better if the gym coach, instead of shielding me with his body, had been able to take out a gun and shoot the guy.
Some of those kids are on your side.
Okay. Let's talk about something.
All right, we're going to move on to something.
Well, real quick, how do you feel about Trump's response to this whole ordeal?
Yeah, it's kind of his.
Don't move your head when you talk.
Right.
What is
all
this?
Right, sorry. It's Diana. It was Trumpian.
You say you're not Jewish. You're a modern guy, but you move your head when you talk with me.
All right.
All right, go ahead. Something about Trump. You hate Trump?
No, it was Trumpian. He was himself. It wasn't. It's just more Trump.
I just love the fact that we finally have a practical president. The guy is talking like a human being. Sometimes he disappoints me, but I thought to myself, yeah, we finally have a president that says, you know what? They need to arm the teachers. He came up with that after I came up with it. I sat there and I thought, what's the real solution? What can we do right now? Not with the Senate, not with the congressional legislation, not with changing psychiatry laws, not with monitoring and studying. What can we do right this second, this week? We can have teachers armed and trained in a couple of weeks. But and guess what?
Well, hold on. Can I wait a second?
Trump actually came up with that, and I thought, my God, somebody's actually thinking outside of the box. Somebody's actually trying to be practical.
You said trained in a couple weeks.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think it may take more training than that. And there are a couple things. Yeah, maybe you had 4 cops hunkered down outside that school who didn't go in while the shooting was going on.
Okay.
It may take more training and conditioning than that to come up with a good teacher strike force.
I'm willing to do it.
Okay. So, all right. So, teachers with guns, maybe. Fences, maybe. I'd say that the cost of fences and metal detectors would be less than the cost of arming 10 teachers per school.
Oh no, it'd be much less expensive to arm those teachers. The fences with our boards of education and our state governments, it would be $1 trillion to put up a fence this tall around every school. It would be astronomical. There'd be corruption. There'd be bribery. Every fence they put up would cost us 12 times the amount of a normal fence. That's why I don't want to get involved with that. You know what? You
Oh,
go,
so did
you take a teacher and you say, listen, here's $400. Get a gun at the local sporting goods store. We're going to put you through 2 weeks of training. That's it.
How much does the training cost? It's not free.
I know it's not free, but it wouldn't cost as much as a fence
Where do they
or
go?
a wall.
Where do they go? Do they go to the police academy?
Go to the
for-
range. They can
No,
teach
you know,
at the
you need
range.
somebody to. You can't just have somebody target practice. You need all sorts of.
Yeah, they have things you can take. They have little courses you can take on combat training. Listen, or you know what we can do? Let's just wait until the next guy comes in, where our kids and have another gym coach try to protect the kids with his body. Let's do that. That's a solution.
I'm just saying that fences probably are. We don't even know what percentage
It-
schools
and
are
it,
already.
and it would take 6 years to build each fence. So, well, you know, you gotta get approval. You know, there's ecological concerns. I mean, there might be a salamander on that property, and then there's, you know, we got to get bids, and some of those bids have to be from minority groups, and we're gonna need approval from the city council. And I can see these fences.
That sounds like a whole bunch of exaggerated worst case scenarios. For
And then,
one thing,
and then there's got to be handicap laws. You know, you got to have an elevator for the fence in case somebody needs to get across in a handicap vehicle. So
it's an effing fence, and a
it's
lot of
an-
schools
you-
already
you
have
know-
fences.
You know what? I have seen. I worked at a school one time, and they badly needed a bridge over a dangerous street because the kids were crossing the street. They went to the city council, and the city council gave them so many bureaucratic laws and so many handicap laws and zoning laws and this and that.
The
They needed
bridge
special
never
archi-
got built.
Never got built, and that year, a
Somebody
kid
got run over.
was hit by a car and killed. That very year, 6 months after the meeting. And everyone knew it was going to happen. So, yes, Rick, you want to spend $1 trillion on fences? Fine.
This is.
I'd rather it'd be simpler to just arm the teachers.
Let's only do what you want to do, and everything else has insuperable obstacles. We have too many guns, so don't do anything about the guns. Fences are complicated to build, which they're not. It's not, and a lot of them are already in place. Let's not do anything with fences. Anyway. Let's move on to the
So it's-
Manafort shit. Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say that Mueller seems to have really lowered the hammer. He's got how many convictions now, or charges?
22 people and companies have been either indicted or have pled guilty to Manafort stuff.
And this gives you hope, does it?
It gives me hope
Because
that this is
your-
not the end of the
Your
investigation.
vindictive little liberal heart is so excited by that. We may get Trump. How are you going to get Trump, Rick? Come on.
I don't know if we get Trump, but I mean, the
You
people
gonna get
around
him
him.
impeached because Manafort gets caught doing something before he even met Trump?
No, the new indictments have it right up to while he was working for Trump.
Okay, well, so if you can get this guy Manafort, you may be able to impeach Trump, huh? Maybe if you can squeeze him, maybe if you can scare him, he'll crack and he'll say something shitty about Trump and you can impeach him. Is that what you want?
We've got a bunch of many of the indictments
Don't
that
move your
came
head,
down
okay?
in the last 2 weeks involve Russian influence and interference. And maybe I don't know if Trump gets impeached or not. Probably not, everything considered. But maybe we do something about getting the Russians out of our political, or at least pushing back.
The Russian interference you're talking about
I know.
was that they were trying to sow chaos.
And they were also pro-Trump.
No, they actually.
Yes.
Okay, can I respond, please, sir? What happened was they paid people to show up at pro-Trump rallies, and then they paid people to show up at anti-Trump rallies. The same exact thing. But CNN didn't tell you that.
No, the Russians weighed in more in favor of Trump than against him.
No, they were playing both sides against each other.
Yeah, but they mostly weighed in on Trump. They weighed in against anybody who wasn't Hillary. I mean, in favor of anybody who wasn't Hillary. They weighed in favor of Bernie, they weighed in favor of Jill Stein, and they weighed in favor of Trump.
I see. So because the Russians were trying to help Bernie Sanders and Jill Stein, that means that Trump colluded with Russia, in your mind.
Let Trump aside. I don't know if Trump gets impeached.
Okay, this is what's happening. Okay,
You're not the boss of
Russians,
what happened. is what
Okay,
what's happening.
I'll tell you what's
All
happening.
right, go ahead.
The Russians have figured out that liberals are very easy to manipulate. So their greatest achievement was getting us to lose the Vietnam War. They like to demoralize Americans. And so this time, what they wanted to do was create a civil war.
Well, hold on about the Vietnam
Wait,
War.
I'm not-
No,
wait,
hold on,
you're
hold on.
interrupting
No,
me.
because you keep hitting that we would have won the Vietnam. Now, presidents, did the Russians brainwash LBJ and Nixon and Rumsfeld?
Nixon did the right thing in the Vietnam War.
Yeah, but he admitted that the war couldn't be won.
No,
He did.
no, he didn't. He negotiated a peace. He negotiated the peace in the Paris Peace Accords in 1974.
I just read this week that
1973.
he admitted in private conversations the war couldn't be won.
Well, it couldn't be won with the liberals.
That's
trying
not
to
why
prevent-
he said it couldn't be
No,
won.
listen, we could have ended the war in 5 minutes if we dropped the bomb.
A nuclear weapon.
Yeah, we could have.
Is it worth
We
it?
could've-
Is it worth
I'm not
making a nuclear weapon a normal tool of war to win that horrible fucking morass?
We didn't even have to use a nuclear weapon. We could have just used the Air Force. The Air Force could have just started bombing at the DMZ and just went north. They could have just. We know for a fact General Giap, the leader of the
right. You know,
North
I don't know how we
Vietnamese
ended up on
forces,
Vietnam.
You
Let's get-
brought us into Vietnam. The General Giap said that they were weeks. They were 2 weeks
No,
away
wait,
from
you were gonna-
surrendering
you were gonna-
when Nixon was bombing Hanoi.
You were going to tell me what's going on with liberals being manipulated by Russia. And of course, no conservatives, because conservatives are smart.
Would you please let me finish
Go
the
ahead.
sentence?
But no more fucking Vietnam. Nobody cares.
I
It
love
happened.
talking about Vietnam.
Yeah, but nobody likes hearing about it. It
No,
ended
you don't
42
like hearing
it
about
ended
it because it
42
proves
and a
you
half
wrong.
years. No,
Because
because
it
it's
shows-
a crazy,
it
it's a
shows-
crazy fringe belief.
No,
it's
it isn't.
contradicted by.
No, it isn't.
Yeah, it is. It's-
Rick, the Democrats lost the Vietnam War. You can't deny that.
Yeah, I'm going to deny it. It's a
Okay,
that you think that the Vietnam War could be won.
Yes,
such a small
sure.
percentage
Uh-huh.
of people think that that's the case. It's a fringe
Well, we
belief.
had it won, Rick. What do you think the Paris Peace Accords were? What were the terms of the Paris Peace Accords? Do you know?
That there's a ceasefire.
We were going to leave Vietnam in the same shape that we left Korea, divided in two, with the North being communist and the South being
I'm breaking. No more
democratic.
fucking Vietnam. No more Vietnam.
Well, then stop
It's
arguing
bad for
with
the
me.
show. It's bad for the show.
You know, it's bad for the show for you
All
to
right.
lose.
No, because
You're
nobody
just
but-
losing, that's
nobody
all.
but a fringy asshole thinks we could have won the Vietnam War. I mean, yeah, we could have nuked them. We could have nuked
No,
the crap
we
out of
already
them.
had it
We
won.
could have we
Rick.
could have kept fighting with air power for another decade.
We already had it won, Rick.
No,
the Paris
no.
Peace Accords were signed by the North. They won.
Nobody believes that the Peace
Leda
Accord-
Toe won the Nobel Peace Prize.
Nobody believes that those peace accords would have stopped the North from invading the South.
They would have
They were-
if Ted Kennedy hadn't cut off the resupply to the South Vietnamese
LBJ
army.
thought the war couldn't be won. Nixon thought the
Yeah, but
war
you're
couldn't be
evading.
won.
You're evading.
Rumsfeld.
Did Ted Kennedy stop the
I don't know.
resupply
All
of
right.
the South Vietnamese
Just
army?
Stop the shit. No more Vietnam. No more Vietnam. Go back to the present day. Back to the present day.
Stop arguing with me about it.
All right, go ahead with.
So what the Russians did, they were so successful in confusing you guys about the Vietnam War that they thought, let's do this again. And they got us to pull out in the Iraq War, causing 200,000 civilian deaths. And then they thought, you know what? Let's do the pièce de résistance, the greatest achievement of the KGB. What they really want
It's not the KGB.
is to cause a civil war in the U.S.
The KGB doesn't exist anymore.
Okay,
It's the, what is it? The GR, whatever it is. It's anyway.
That's just great, Rick.
But
What
no,
they're-
it's
what they're-
it's a whole different government. Now,
Okay.
it may be the same asshole from the KGB, Putin, who's now in charge, but anyway.
Okay. The goal of the Russians is to create a civil war in the United States. That's what they want. If they could have what they really, really want, we'd be at each other's throats. So what they did was they tried to hype up the tension by supporting all sides
Except
with their
Hillary's
interference. I believe they helped Hillary too.
I've heard
I'd be happy to look it up. But my point is that there is no collusion between the Trump campaign and the Russians. You still haven't been able to prove it. However, there is proof that Hillary colluded with Russia on the dossier.
This is mostly horse crap and cherry picking. And Manafort, I believe among the latest round of indictments, was attempting to sell the Russians on his ability to influence Trump and government policies.
Okay, well, maybe you got Manafort, but by the way, he claims he's innocent. Maybe he's innocent, Rick. Ever thought of that?
Have you seen?
That would ruin your plan, wouldn't it?
Have you seen the mass of evidence that's been presented against him?
No, but frankly, I don't give a shit. I'm actually kind of sick of this Mueller guy because at a certain point, he really should either be proving that Trump colluded with Russia or he should just give up. Because I'm frankly kind of disgusted. I got to be honest with you. You want to know my opinion, Rick? Because you keep asking me these questions.
No,
I want to
I
see.
keep saying.
I want to see Mueller's proof that Trump colluded with Russia, because that's what we hired him to do. That's what my tax dollars are going to.
No, your tax
No,
dollars.
my tax dollars are going to Mueller so that he can prove to you and me that Trump colluded with Russia. And frankly, he's not able to do it. Meanwhile,
That's no.
there
You're
is
cherry
proof.
pick. You're
Meanwhile,
misstating what his job is.
No, his job was to investigate collusion between Russia and Trump.
No, he's a special prosecutor investigated to see if there was, among other things, obstruction of justice, which doesn't have to.
Then
No,
please
and-
give me that. Can you please prove that to me?
Well,
I'll tell you what, Rick. Prove anything.
22
Prove anything to me. Has Mueller? Does Mueller have any evidence of anything that Trump has done? Or he's got Manafort. He's got him. He's
Now,
got
if
Manafort.
everybody around Trump is dirty,
Nobody around Trump is dirty. Nobody. The only thing they got this poor guy that was Manafort's partner.
Gates.
They got him on a procedural thing, where they go in and they say, "We caught you lying." You know how they got Flynn? They went after his son. It's disgusting.
was this?
They think that they caught his son in some sort of shady, some sort of business irregularity. And so as a result, they told Flynn that if you don't plead guilty to a procedural crime, meaning that you mixed up some fact when you spoke to the FBI, we're going after your son. Is that the way we want to do things, Rick? Is that how we're going to get Trump impeached?
If everybody around a president, regardless of whether the president is guilty or not, is dirty.
Nobody around Trump is dirty. Nobody. Not one person.
Jared Kushner,
Yeah, he hasn't done anything.
he's had to amend his statements about his contacts
Oh, I see. They got him on procedure.
40 times.
So his statement wasn't quite right about some business deal.
No,
You know what, Rick? Wait, Mueller could go after you. He could find 100 things you've done wrong.
Yeah, he
Yeah,
could.
yeah, yeah, he
I'm
could.
not in the White House. I'm not influencing policy.
Let me ask you a question.
I'm not
Let me ask
talking
you
to
a
the
question.
president every
Let me
day.
ask you a question. Hillary sold 20% of our
No, what-
uranium
no.
to the Russians.
All
Does
right,
that
fuck
interest
that.
Mueller at all?
No more uranium one.
that
It's more
interest Mueller?
cherry picking horseshit. I'm not talking about uranium one anymore. It's bullshit. All right.
Don't the Russians fear Hillary? Is that why they are going
Well,
for her?
that's the liberal line. That's what I, as a brainwashed liberal, believe, that Putin doesn't like Hillary because Hillary was apparently going to be tough on him, and that he kind of put his finger on the scales towards anybody but Hillary.
And you believe that?
Yeah. I know there was the reset button, but she did talk
The
tough about
woman
Russia.
that gave Russia the
No
the
fucking uranium.
The Ukraine. What about the Ukraine, Rick? Was that okay with you? Is it all right if Hillary gave Putin the Ukraine?
No, I don't like the Ukraine.
So Hillary was so tough that she gave Putin the Ukraine.
It's more cherry picking.
Yeah, it's just a country.
It is just
It's just a big, fat country with millions and millions of people, and Hillary was perfectly willing to let him have it. Does that
Putin-
frighten Putin?
Does Putin have the Ukraine? No, he's got one chunk, the Crimea.
Well, he gave, Hillary said nothing when Putin invaded the western Ukraine. If they hadn't fought back, they would have taken all of it. Do you think that frightened Putin? Do you think Putin was
No, I
afraid
think
of
other
Hillary?
stuff that Hillary did made.
Like what? Name
I don't
100
know.
things. Name anything.
I don't know.
Name one thing that Hillary
I
did.
can't. I haven't done my homework on it.
Okay, let me tell you what frightens Putin, all right? Hillary was part of a 9-year dissembling of the U.S. military. We have the smallest military
wrong
that
word.
we've had since World War II, proportionately. It's Trump that's building up the military. It's Trump that's building up the Ukrainian armaments. So it's Trump that actually fought. There were actually Russian mercenaries killed in Syria this week by Americans.
Why hasn't Trump passed?
No. I want to know why Hillary didn't do any of those things.
I don't know.
Why
I
is
haven't
it?
done my-
Why
I
is
don't-
it that? Why is it that the military is getting an enormous? It's getting the biggest budget increase it's ever had. What is Putin more afraid of? A weak, debilitated U.S. military, where our missiles are actually not as modern and efficient as the Russian missiles? Under Obama, that is what occurred. The Russians overtook us in missile technology, as did the Chinese. And that didn't bother you. And in fact, Putin was afraid of Hillary.
Who still has the strongest military in the world?
Who still has the strongest
No,
military?
don't mock
Rick,
me,
Rick,
motherfucker.
it's just so pathetic.
Who still
No. The Russians have better missiles now. Do you know that we have 1,000? We're 1,000 pilots short. That our planes, we don't have enough pilots for our airplanes. Do you know that? Wait. Under Obama, do you know that they had to take
Howard,
parts?
what's the pilot situation in Russia? Do they have
I'm
enough
not-
pilots? Do their planes last?
Their planes are better than ours. Their most recent generation of planes beat us in computer simulations.
Yeah, but they fall apart fast.
No, they were actually better. Their most recent fighter plane is better than ours. And furthermore, do you know that under Obama, our military had to go into, don't interrupt me, into museums to get parts for the planes because we didn't have enough parts? We're 1,000 pilots short because we can't pay enough. We're paying the pilots so little money that they're quitting the Air Force. Do you know that we have the smallest Navy that we've ever had since World War I, proportionately? All of that frightens Putin. He's worried because Hillary is a devastatingly strong woman that frightened Putin.
Who spends more on their military,
We do.
the U.S. or Russia?
We do.
And always have.
Yeah, so what?
We spend more on our military than the
I was
next.
mocking you because it was an irrelevant argument. And if you tell me that stupid argument about how we spend more than the other countries,
Combined.
yeah, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. And I'll tell you why. Because we've got to be able to beat Russia, China, Iran, and North Korea. It's not just us fighting one other country. We've got to be strong enough to hold back the whole world, who are our enemies. China wants us destroyed. Russia wants us destroyed. Korea wants us destroyed. Iran wants us destroyed. We have to be able to fight all of them. And we have the weakest military we've ever had. Thank you, Hillary. I'm terrified of you. She terrified Putin.
Yet it's still the strongest military in the world by far.
It's so strong. It's so strong. So let me get this straight. Just think logically, because you're desperate. You've got these little phrases that you're using against me. It's a strong military. It's very strong. Just use your logic. Use your logic. Now you're not on facts anymore. You're on logic. So I'm going to give you a chance to use logic. One candidate, Hillary, creates the weakest military that we've had since World War II. The other candidate, Trump, increases the military budget higher than we've ever had it. Who do you think Putin would be more afraid of? The guy that wants to build up the military or the person that broke it down?
The competent, non-chaotic politician.
Okay, thank you. Let's stop now. I'm done.
We don't.
Let's go on to a different topic.
No, what you just did a whole bunch of what about?
I need a
all right. Okay.